just like I said in my last lesson, I wanted to go more in depth with key bass, but I wanted to talk to you guys about ADSR, these sliders over here. And I apologize because I don't have the zoom feature on my overhead camera. So I'm gonna try my best to explain everything. All right, so we have two envelopes. These, for simply put, will help shapes the sound over time. We have the A, which is attack, how quickly the sound plays when you play it. So this is a quick attack. Now here's a long attack. It comes in slowly. So, right, and decay is the time between when it reaches the top of the attack to the sustain level. So this depends on the sustain level. So if the sustain level is all the way down, so if I have a quick decay, right, it's gonna be no sound, right? So let me bring the sustain up a little bit. It decays over time, right? And then if I bring the attack up some, it's gonna slowly creep in and then come out. Okay, and it decays the sustain level. So if the sustain level is at 0, you won't hear any sound. But if I bring it up, let me bring the attack down. You hear it slowly goes down to the sustain level. Okay, so the release is the time it takes from when you release the key till it goes to complete silence. Okay. Short release. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So for a synth bass setting, you just want to have the sustain all the way up. Sometimes if you leave the attack all the way to 0 and the release to 0, you may get a clipping sound at the end or the beginning of the. So if you don't want that, bring the release up some, maybe about 2, and the attack up to about 2. You know, you may not notice it in this tutorial, but you know, when you are performing and you're messing with one in person, you know, that may bother you. So okay, so yeah, so that's important because sometimes you won't have access to the dream keyboard that you want, you know what I'm saying? So you have to learn how to make sounds, and I'm going to show you guys how to make a bass sound. All right, so we already went over the envelope. The second envelope controls the sound, the volume over time, and the first envelope controls the filter. This shapes the color over time, but we'll worry about that later. So over here is the oscillator section. We have a saw wave. I'll play this is a saw wave at 16 foot. So the 8 feet is the fundamental. So like middle C or whatever. And then if you tune it down to 16, it's an octave below the fundamental. Okay, so so I have my first oscillator at an octave below, right? Just to get a little low end. And you can stay here if you want, you know. But if you want a double layer, I will add the second oscillator, another saw wave. A saw wave is your bread and butter, by the way. I'll have that at the 8 foot. So, and then I'll blend them in with this knob right here. And you see, it gets real buzzy and real big and real thick. So depending on how you want it to sound, you can mix between the two on this board. So if I want the lower one to have more presence, I'll turn it to the right. If I want the higher one to have more presence, I'll turn to the right. If I want the lower one to have presence, I'll turn to the left. Okay, so now this is right. Okay, so I like it about 10 o'clock. Okay. So if you wanted a little bit quieter, you go to the filter section. Certain boards have different names. You may see cutoff, frequency, things like that. So this is the shapes the tone over time. So now it's starting to really sound like a bass, right? bring it down. But see, as you go up, the filter cuts off the keeps the low frequency, and that's we have a low pass filter. So all the high frequency stuff gets lost, right? So what I do to compensate for that is go to the keyboard tracking slider, and that brings some of them high frequencies back in, so it's balanced between the low end and the high end. Okay, so so if you follow these simple steps, you can get a key-based sound on any board that has the ADSR filter and has the saw wave oscillator, and as long as it has a filter section, you're good, and you can dial back the frequency so you get that low end just like this, right? So this smooth bass is really good for like R&B, things like that, but sometimes you want to get a little punch back into your bass. So now we're going to go to the envelope of the filter. Okay, we're going to turn it, go up, make it go up to about maybe 5, and you start to hear the bass start to have a little attack on the beginning. So now this is where the first envelope comes in. So if I bring the sustain pedal up, the sustain slider up, you see it goes back to a buzz, even though the filter is cut low. So now if I want to get a nice little buzz on the front end, I'm going to bring the decay up just a little bit, right? And with our understanding of the ADSR, we know what this function does. Okay, so I get that little rubber band sound on the front end, if you will, and that allows it to cut a little more. So now I have this little pad, like this bass sound cuts through a little more. All right, so yeah, this board is a polysynth, so that means it plays more than one note at a time. But so what I did, I already have this keyboard on mono or solo, but if I had it on a poly, you know what I'm saying? But we don't really want that for key bass. Okay, so we're gonna make sure it's on solo or one note at a time. And if you want, you can add the portamento or the glide, which is over here. So I'm gonna push portamento. If you want that slide on there, you know, I have it about 3, maybe about level 3 or 9 o'clock, however you want to look at it. Okay, so, you know, that's pretty much it. The secret weapon is your understanding of the envelopes and the filter, you know. So if you understand how you can manipulate these two to really get your sound on any synth, like I can create sounds on my Jupiter 6 right here, my Jupiter 80, my JP 8000. I have a Korg, micro Korg, you know, tons of VST'S. You know, if I need to get a particular sound, I'm gonna, I know how to fix it or adjust my parameters so I can get the sound that I want and not have to be limited to the presets. All right, so we're just gonna stop here for this lesson because there's so much to cover in synthesis, and especially for key bass. Part of being a great key bass player is knowing how to adjust the sounds and picking the right sounds for the right song and the right genre of music. All right, so I'll see you guys in the next video.